done.
Hey, what's up everybody? Daddy Dave, Street Outlaws. Hey, what's up YouTube Nation? Daddy Dave, Street Outlaws. And we're gonna finish up this unit today. So in prior videos on the test drive, I noticed that it was a single wheel peel, single posi track deal. We just can't have that. I noticed it on the test drive, and then we took the cover off and inspected everything and found out exactly what it is. Then I called my boys over at Quick Performance, ordered some parts. So we have a Yukon posi unit, some 390 ring and pinion. Currently has 342s in it, and with a 4.8 liter that don't have a lot of power. Of course, we added a Pro Charger, and that helps a lot. But these old trucks are heavy, so we got to trick that motor into thinking it's way bigger. And the way to do it is with the rear gear. So we went with a 390. We'll pull the 342s out, go with a 390. It may tack a little higher going down the highway, but the performance side of it makes up for that. 390 gear, and of course all new bearings on the posi unit, and the new bearings for the pinion. Of course, we're going to finish it up. I'm gonna go over to Chris Bales over at Bales Performance. He's kind of already started tuning on it, but the gear is really killing it. So we're gonna get this changed, go back over to Chris's and tune on the thing a little better, clean up the tune up. It'll make a little bit more power, and then we'll go rip donuts in it or something cool. So let's get started. This is a part where things get a little tricky if you've never done rear gears before. Getting this pinion nut off can sometimes be a pain in the butt. That's why I do it with everything still in there. The posi unit or the center section still in it, axles, everything's still in it, just in case you gotta hold something. But hopefully this thing will just buzz right off. And it did. I always kind of leave this attached to hold the pinion in the housing, because if the pinion starts sliding back when you go to pull the third member out or turn it to try to turn the third member to get the axles out and stuff, the pinion can actually wedge in there. So I kind of just leave the yoke on it to hold it. We will move back here and get the axles out. So this is a little 8mm bolt. Sometimes it's hard to get. I like using a 6-point socket so it don't strip them out, but it's hard to get a socket and a ratchet in this area right here. So I always take this cap off first. And these things are side specific, so I keep them. I usually set them somewhere where I know what side they come off of. If you've done gears long enough, you are going to run into a scenario where this pin is actually broke, and someone has already started rounding that one off, so that might be a pain in the ass. Got lucky. Sometimes the threads will come out and the rest of the pin will be broke off in here, and I'll show you as soon as we do. Sometimes the pin will break right here, so the threads, everything will come out, but this much is still stuck in there, which holds the center pin in. And I've had it happen probably 4 times in the whole time I've been turning wrenches, and it's not easy to get out. Normally you got to just come in the backside, beat the pin so hard that it breaks the case right here to get that thing out. But luckily, Quick Performance, the stuff they sent us, will have a brand new bolt. So once you pull the center pin, you can roll that around, push in on the axles, this is the only thing that holds these axles in. On a disc brake truck like this one, the brake calipers will actually help hold it in if you break an axle or something happens to that. So once those are out, you can just push the axle out, take your other cap off, There are shims on each side of these bearings. I like to keep them on the same side as well. This is your normal single wheel non-posi center section. Garbage. Keep this one over here. And we'll put this one over here. And I'm going to grab my air hammer, and we will come in from the front and air hammer the pinion out of it. And I'm going to save this crush sleeve so I can use it again. And there's a little shim between the bearing and the pinion that we need. We're going to press that off, get that shim out, and toss these things in the garbage. All the bearings. Actually, somebody's been in this thing and replaced. Looks like this stuff's already been replaced, so I may just, if this bearing comes off easy, we'll just reuse the bearing in that shim and put it on a new pinion and cram it back in there. So new bearing pressed on, the little shim I was referring to. Got the yoke all cleaned up and put new front seal in. It's always good practice. Just seals are cheap, might as well just put them in there. Save you a headache. You're gonna want just a little bit of tension on this thing so it don't spin real free. So now the pinion's all in. I'll check pinion depth, but it should be really close. This is the new posi unit from Quick Performance. So we're just gonna press bearings on here and bolt our ring gear up to that. They supply new bolts. And for future reference, like most of GM's, 90% of GM's, these are reverse thread. So they can't back out. Most of your Ford rear ends are normal thread. You gotta be real careful, especially when you're taking them out. If you go the wrong way, you will end up snapping them off. I'm gonna grab some Loctite, Loctite these things in. The ring gear fits really tight to the posi unit, so you just back and forth and actually pull the ring gear up to it. And you grab the big gun and tighten them up. I'm not a big torque wrench type of guy, except for motor parts. So this thing's got all the torque, my way of torquing them. I'm gonna go carry this on the vise, give it an extra tap just to make sure. So now I got all the bearings pressed on, got the ring gear all put on. We need to check pinion depth, and that's gonna be the distance between center of the posi unit or axle to the face of the pinion. I got this little piece of metal I got rigged up with a hole drilled in it. So it's in the center of the posi, so center of the axle, center of the housing. 1.93 is the thickness of that piece. .815. 2.815. And there's a number on the back of this, 2.5, looks like 92. 2.815. We're going to subtract the thickness of that point, so 6.2. So we're about 30 thousandths off. I'll have to pull the pinion back out, put a 30 thousandth shim in there, and press the bearing back on. That's how you're going to come up with your pinion depth. So we'll do that. I'll get that back out, press it off, put a shim in there, put it all back together, and we should be good to go. We got the shim added to the pinion. Now the pinion depth is within like 3 thousandths. So I'm gonna call that close enough. Now we can take the center section with the ring gear on it, new bearings, slide it up in there, put our spacers in each side, and put the caps on, and hopefully the backlash is right on it, and we won't have to adjust that very much. So. So there you have it. It's all back together. The center section is. I just got to put the rotors on it, brakes, rims and tires, fill the rear end up, and bolt the drive shaft back in. So we had a little difficulties with the third member going in, and I just had to flip the shims from side to side to get the center section where it needed to be. Common, sometimes you have to flip the shims for the backlash to be right. Not too big of a deal. Normally this is probably an hour and a half, 2-hour job, start to finish. Run into a couple of difficulties like the pinion, having to pull it back apart and put a shim in it. Takes a little bit of time, but I'm gonna finish this thing up, fill it up with fluid, get the rims and tires, everything back on it, and then we're gonna take it for a test drive and see how big of a difference it makes.